Hello everybody, welcome back to the breakdown. Thank you for being here once again. My absence for a few days, and a lot of this stuff that goes on in life just keeps building up, and so I've got quite a lot to cover, so we'll get straight into it. Obviously you would be aware by now that the 7-day lockdown has been extended to 14 days. A good friend of mine tipped that at the beginning, that it would be for 2 weeks. I think in a previous video I may have mentioned that it could go, well, I think I mentioned it was going to be 3 days and then it was 7, but it's never what they say it's going to be. It's always longer, so we shouldn't be surprised. What was I going to start with? And obviously they're pushing the fact that these lockdowns are going to be necessary. We were told that one long lockdown was enough and it would never need to come to this, and now this is our 6th lockdown. So I mean, we can't really listen to them, can we? I mean, we can't believe a thing that they say, and they justify it and say that, well, look, we've got it on health advice and we've got this, and that's always evolving, so we can't make these decisions. And I'm sure they would have been able to figure out a better method than lockdowns by now, but you see, that's the point. They are not just flying by the seat of their pants. They know what they're doing, okay? They are complicit in what's going on. They are aware of what they are doing and how they are handling it and the impact that it's having, and they do it anyway. We need to understand that. If we haven't already got that, nothing much anyone can say to convince you. That's what's going on. They are complicit completely, 100%. They know what they are doing and what effect it's having, okay? That's it. That is the truth. And I think what we'll cover here, I actually got some notes tonight because I've been listening to the radio last couple of days, and just make some notes so that I can get these points across as quickly as possible. Now, there was an expert in quotation marks, a doctor on the radio earlier. I listened to 3AW, and that's as far as I'll go. I won't worry about naming names. And this doctor, quote, "The question is not should I or should I not get vaccinated, because we already know it's absolutely essential to be vaccinated. So then the question is, which one do I get?" End quote. So, look, I'll leave that there because it sort of goes into the next topics that I want to cover. But we've got how much evidence of this vaccine or these vaccines? And we've got vaccines. Each country has a whole bunch of different vaccines. Some can't be used here that can be used there because different health bodies deemed it, unacceptable for here, but it's acceptable for there. That to me does not give a vote of confidence for any given vaccine. In fact, what it does do is suggest that each different area of the world is being treated as a test area for these vaccines, and obviously you've got to have some element of control. So this one can't be used here because it's being used there, and we'll get to figure out which ones are the most effective. Now, if we're thinking along those lines, we'll find out which ones are more effective than others once we're actually administering them. Tell me that's not a test. Yeah, they haven't been tested enough. But we'll leave that one there. I want to start moving into the financial markets again. Last couple of videos have been more about sort of micro issues in our lives and that sort of thing. But I want to go back to macro stuff that's going on while everybody's distracted. Okay. Today, the CBA, so Commonwealth Bank of Australia, notified the market that they'd made 8 billion plus. I didn't catch the full details there, but it was 8 million plus a little bit. $8 billion profit over the entirety of the last financial year. And the majority of this, and they said it in their talk back tonight, had the CEO of CBA on the radio. It said it was off the backs of new loans. That's what the increase is. So obviously they had existing loans, and there would have been some impact in the previous financial year for them foregoing interest. Well, not foregoing interest, sorry. They deferred only. So that probably comes into it as well. All the deferred interest, some of that was coming in. But it's mostly off of the backs of these new loans. Now, I already talked about the property market and what that looks like at the moment. So you can go back and have a look at my previous videos where I cover that. But obviously the market at the moment is just going ahead in leaps and bounds. 16%, I think, increase in Melbourne, and maybe slightly more than that in Sydney in the last year. So that's ridiculous gains for any given year in the housing space. But of course, that's backed by all of these new loans. So it's interesting to know that there'll be people that are defaulting at the moment. There will be people defaulting, and we're not really being given any data on how many people have defaulted on their loans, but I've covered that in a previous video as well. That's going to increase just because of these lockdowns, and there are some people that aren't able to work and make money, so they can't pay their loans and they default on their loans. And some of these houses are going to be the ones that are being bought by those that are borrowing money from the bank that just claimed the house back and resold it again. And a lot of that's what's coming into causing these exponential amounts of growth in the banks. CBA being the biggest company on the ASX, but all the big four banks will be, posting sort of numbers like this. Not this big, but and they're all performing share buybacks and great big dividend payouts, and yeah, big business, eh? So the only thing I really wanted to cover, adding to that, was this is where all this new money is going, or this new currency is going. Currency is flooding the market, like markets around the world, not just Australia's market, but we're hitting record highs all the time in the ASX, and the NASDAQ is, over in the US. So, but that's all off of the backs of all this new currency that's come into the system, which is the only reason why it didn't collapse in 2020 and continues to go ahead in leaps and bounds right now. All this new money's coming in. The banks are posting massive profits because they're lending that money out. The money's got to go somewhere. Remember, all debt money is created money out of thin air, and then it gets realized as the interest is paid on it. The interest is paid on it, the loan is completed, and all of the created money plus the interest comes into existence. Until then, it's a promise to pay. So that's where all this new currency is going. Okay. What did I say? Yes, share markets continue to hit new record highs. And here's the other thing. The share market's going up off of the backs of this new currency. And people are happy to pay the higher amounts of money for these companies because they're posting earnings like they are. Again, these are big conglomerate businesses. These aren't the smaller ASX companies. Most of them are struggling at the moment. And it's all off of the back of confidence in, you guessed it, something that's nothing more than an experimental vaccine or vaccines. They're all still experimental. They haven't been out long enough to, and that's what's fueling this. You got the confidence in the market because, hey, we're that much closer to being able to open up once we've got 70 to 80% of the world's population vaccinated with a multitude of different vaccines that are all going to have different effectiveness because they're not the same. But off of the confidence of that, hey, we've got this exponential growth everywhere. Based on what? I mean, everything's the real numbers of inflation. I want to know those, and whatever information we've got, it's a bit of a struggle to be able to calculate that. But the people at the top, they know what's going on. I mean, they've orchestrated all of this, and they may not have orchestrated the virus. They most certainly have hijacked the situation to their advantage. So what do we got? Oh, yeah, that's right. And these vaccines are apparently the ticket out of lockdown. They're the ticket out of all of the hardship, and all of business will be able to go back to doing what they did before, but we've got to accept this ticket out of lockdown. And another thing that's happening right now is this massive push of the green agenda, the climate change agenda. And money is flowing into that. Like, all of the major super funds right now are divesting in companies that aren't trying to achieve this net zero thing that they want to do. And it's interesting that while that's going on, the price of coal is going up a lot. The price of iron ore was going up. I think it's pulled back a little bit. The reason, the reason why the price of coal is going up is because the only effective way to, make this steel is to have coal furnaces. How do you get steel hot enough to purify it and then manufacture it? Well, coal. And not to mention that coal-fired or coal-powered factories are going to be, they're creating the electricity we still use for the most part, and they're also what is required to create and build all of these so-called green things. Whether it's an electric car, where did the energy come to build that? Where did it come from? It came from coal or any other type of fossil fuel. So those things are still going up, even in the face of this green agenda. You're seeing coal and other things we're digging out of the ground being highlighted. All these commodities are being affected in price, and the price is on an upward trajectory. So make of that what you will. And of course, the next thing that I would cover is the fact that off of this extra confidence in the share market right now, whether it be this push for the green agenda or whether it be this idea that once 70 to 80% of the world's population are vaccinated, then we'll be able to go back to some semblance of normality, which is a complete fallacy. That's not going to happen no matter how many people get vaccinated. the new controls and powers that they've realised that they have over people, they're not going to give that up. It's been given to them freely. Why would they give that up? They've gone ahead in leaps and bounds in that regard, so that's not going to stop. But on the backs of this confidence, for now, gold and silver have taken a beating. Now, I'm not in the crypto world, so I haven't really looked at what effect it's had on the cryptocurrencies. They've probably just continued to do what they want to do. But gold and silver have been hit hard in the last week to 2 weeks. They've been on a downward trajectory. And I've mentioned in a couple of videos previous to this one, in this current set of videos I've been doing, that it would be a very wise thing for you to be doing, depending, of course, on your current situation. Excuse me. It would be wise to be thinking about purchasing some gold and some silver. And of course, they're not talking about gold and silver. Gold and silver right now are not being talked about in the media at all. No one's really mentioning it. The only thing is when they mention financial markets or something like that, they might just mention the price of gold and silver. But, it was a matter of excitement last year in 2020. So because there was a big spike in price and miners were going up, like gold miners, silver miners were going up. But that's not really being talked about right now. And when these types of things are not being talked about, that's when, we really want to be focusing on that. So if you had been thinking about buying some gold and silver, it may not be a bad time to actually pull the trigger and buy a little bit, because the price has settled down. Now, I don't know how low it's going to go. I certainly don't know when it's going to go up. But buying the dips, and I mean buying physical metal and buying the dips, is the right path to take. When it's coming down, you want to be buying it and then just holding it. Because at some point, there's going to be a reckoning, just as there was back in 07, 08, 09, 10, through there. There was a bit of a reckoning, right? Even into 2011. Gold and silver went on a rip tear. I mean, it took up until 2011 before silver really got going. And it always lags behind gold. But with all of this extra currency all around the world, all the various currencies, they're all on the increase in volume. And so that obviously fuels inflation like you wouldn't believe. There's trillions and trillions of dollars, pounds, pence, just euros flooding the world markets, which is what's pushing the markets up in value terms. But of course, the money's got to go somewhere. And that's one of the places that it goes, because you put it in there, you can hopefully take more of it out in profits and whatever. But so that's that's all of the gold and silver stuff that I wanted to really mention. Is while there's a bit of a lull in the market and people are not really talking about it much, that's when you want to be taking full advantage of that. There will likely be people on eBay and various other websites that'll be selling their metals. Again, be careful buying from there. Do your due diligence and ensure that you're getting the right items. But and use PayPal, because they have recourse for you if you do get gypped. You'll be able to get your money back. that hasn't happened with me for any gold or silver, but it has happened for me back in the day when I bought some electronics, and that it wasn't what they said it was, and there was a bit of a dispute, but I just went through PayPal and I was covered. So PayPal is probably not a bad idea, but just be careful with eBay. But there's probably going to be some people selling gold, silver, platinum, and that as the price comes down, only because they don't know how the market works, or they just think, well, look, if it's going to go down, they're not long-term holders and they want to sell the metal and put it into the share market because the share market's going up, or they want to put it into cryptocurrencies and have a bit of a go there, which I personally think is a bit of a gamble. But so it's probably not a bad idea to be considering that, and I'm just alerting you to it, that it's coming off in price. And I certainly believe that it'll be going on a rip tear in the years to come, when it becomes obvious to the masses that there's that much extra currency in existence, and therefore the value in currency terms of gold and silver is undervalued, and thus it goes up. But remember that it's not an investment to make more money. That just means that as the market becomes awake to, the wider market becomes awake to the fact that their metals and their land and whatever else is in what's the right way to put it? As the market starts to wake up to the fact that their currency is worth less and they can buy less, they have to spend more of their currency to buy the same stuff that they used to be able to buy for less currency. When that starts to happen and the market really wakes up to that, then gold, silver, the price of land and houses all start to catch up. Now, it's a bit of an anomaly that housing is going stupid right now. It's going up so fast. But I think that that's not necessarily driven by the market factors in terms of understanding anything about inflation and extra currency. Right now, that's just a FOMO. There's a fear of missing out. Because the housing price got going, that's why other people are coming in. And of course, the banks are happy to borrow hand over fist to these buyers, because they've got to have somewhere to send this brand new currency. And that's important. So that's why the property market is acting the way that it is right now. And that's not sustainable. I don't believe it's sustainable. There will be some reckoning coming for that as well. So, as I said before in a previous video, if you've got debt, you probably want to just be making sure that that's manageable for any interest rate hike that comes. And that could be a couple of years, or it could be shorter term. It depends on what the big guys want to do. But first port of call is to take care of any debt you've got. If you don't currently have debt and you're renting, and you've got disposable income, boy, oh boy, gold and silver are your best bet to being able to retain purchasing power. I've covered that in a previous video, so feel free to go back and watch some of them if you haven't already. I cover it there. But you want to retain as much purchasing power as you can, because it is going to catch up with us. Inflation is going to go pretty nutso. And obviously, your items like McDonald's and KFC and cans of Coke and bottles of Coke, I couldn't believe, actually, I haven't really had my eyes open to this stuff, but how much it costs for an ice cream, or how much it costs for a bottle of drink, compared to what it was when I was in school. It's pretty scary how hard and fast that's moved, just in 18 years. That's crazy. That's really crazy. And it's all because there's a whole lot of extra currency. to be played with. And so prices just naturally have to go up to be able to keep up with that. But as we understand, currency volume goes up, so therefore the actual value of that currency goes down. The amount of currency you have to spend for an item goes up because of all the extra currency, but the amount of currency you get paid for what you are doing doesn't go up quite as fast, and the gap widens. And that's going to continue to happen. And when this reckoning comes on how much inflation really has come through, and again, we won't ever get the true numbers, but it will have the effect anyway, then that gap is going to widen quite harshly, and even more people are going to drop through the cracks. Now, just on that, we'll leave that one there. Just on that, about people falling through the cracks, just wanted to, send a shout out to everybody out there. To do with my previous video, I hope you've been getting in contact with anyone that you think might be doing it extra tough right now. We've just been notified, haven't we, that we're going into an extra week of lockdown that's going to affect people. It might be enough to tip some people over the edge. We don't want that. So do what you can to be in contact with anyone that you think you could be a help to. Just take care of each other, because we might be all in this together, but those that are in our leadership, they're not. They're not listening. And they're not listening, but they do know what's going on. And so just please get in contact with anyone and everyone that you can think of that might be doing it tough at this time. And just on politicians and all of that, I've got a final thing to do. I've decided that I'm going to have a little segment at the very, very end of my videos, and I'm going to call it the clown effect. And if anyone out there has any idea of what could be used for any of these, you can drop them in the comments in the previous videos, and I might select them for the clown effect segment at the end of my video. But this, for the very first one, it's quite a broad one, but it certainly covers how things have been going. So today's clown effect: politicians claiming no accountability. Our Premier, he says he has it on good advice and follows the health advice in order to have decisions made, and therefore he defers. He's the leader. The buck stops with the leader, and yet he defers to the health advice that comes from, the health officer. And then if you ask the health officer, he says, look, I've just provided the information, I give the advice, but the decision isn't made by me. And so we keep getting this story that the decision's not made by me. No, it's not made by me. It's not made by me. Where's the buck stopping? Well, no one wants the buck. It's a hot potato. So they're all clowns. And that's our clown effect for today. And just to clarify just how clowny that is, the whole of Victoria got locked down. Now, I know regional Victoria is back out of lockdown, but they got locked down with Melbourne. There were no cases out there, but hang on a minute. There might be something going on in Wangaratta. There was never anything going on in Wangaratta. And once it was pretty clear of that, well, the rest of Victoria is out of lockdown. The information that they are using to justify snap lockdowns, which are affecting people incredibly badly across the board. And then all of a sudden, oh, sorry. Well, no, there's no sorry, but, oh, okay, we're releasing the restrictions on the wider parts of Victoria. Yeah, I think you can understand why they're my very, very first Clown Effect nomination. Anyway, that's it from me for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me on the breakdown. I always appreciate it. If you've got any comments on what I've talked about tonight, please leave them in the comments section. Please leave a like. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd really appreciate that. And yes, please get in contact with anybody that you think might benefit from a call or a text message from you that might be doing it tough in this time. And until next time, please stay safe and God bless. Bye for now.